Is veganism really accessible?
Hi, I'm NISHA.
I'm Nicole.
I'm DANI.
And I'm Hannah.
And this is
The Vegan View.
Cheers!
Hey guys, welcome back to The Vegan View. So today we have a very special guest. We have Jessica Shay, who is founder of Vegan Street Fair and now Vegan Sunday. She's a mom of two, a vegan for 7 years, and we are so excited to have her. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This is really thrilling.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you created Vegan Street Fair, how you became vegan? Like, tell us a little bit about who you are.
I mean, like, how many hours do we have? 'Cause this is going to take a really long time. So I became vegan in 2011 after an anniversary trip to SEAWORLD. Funny enough, my husband and I did an encounter with the dolphins. And, you know, at the time, I wasn't vegan. I didn't really know any better. And I took photos with them, and it's so embarrassing to think about now. It's just like, what did I do?
Right.
But it was the catalyst for everything that sort of transpired after. So I posted about it on Facebook, and a friend of mine mentioned how terribly they were treated in there. And I didn't believe him at the time because I was drinking the Kool-Aid, and I was like, I'm going to prove you wrong. So I went on Google for hours just trying to find anything that could tell me how good SeaWorld was. And within 5 minutes, my world was shattered, because they start telling you how smart dolphins are, and they try to kill themselves in there. I mean, they're very smart, and they're like, I don't want to be here. They ram their heads against the wall. They have to take antidepressants. I mean, it's pretty bad. So within 5 minutes, I was a mess. I started looking at my cat, and I was like, what's the difference between you and a dolphin and a pig and and I just decided from there that I didn't want anything to ever have to suffer for me ever again. So that was in 2011, and yeah.
Oh, I got like chills.
I
when
know.
you said that. It was like we've all had that moment where it's like all of a sudden you see all the animals equally, and it's just crazy how much difference there are in our society.
Yeah, because we see these animals as commodities or things that we should be able to exploit at all costs.
Yeah.
And I feel like when you have that light bulb moment and you start walking in the light, all of a sudden everything just becomes, brand new for you. So the world became very different, and in 2011 I was going to create an app to find vegan stuff, and like Happy Cow had existed, but I kind of wanted to make it more like a game.
Okay.
So I was creating this app for like 4 years. I had a child in between that, my first son. During this app process, I was putting in all the places in LA. There are lots.
Yeah.
Lots. And I was like, man, I could live here for 10 years and never get to all of them at once. So why don't I just create an event where they all come to me? And that's kind of how Vegan Street Fair was born, yeah. And I grew up in New York, so street fairs are something that you kind of...
They're really common there,
Yeah, there's just like, you wake up and there's a street fair on your block.
Yeah.
Or walking to work.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I wanted for street fair. I wanted people to like stumble upon it. I wanted somebody to trip on it and be like, whoa, this is cool. This is veganism. I want a part of this.
That's so the experience of street fair, because it's just like in the middle of a road that's super popular. They have restaurants all around there, and people go. Yeah. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is what vegan food is like.
Yeah, they probably don't
crazy.
even realize that they're at a vegan street fair till they see the sign,
No. I have to tell you that when we went last year, I had so many friends who are not vegan text me. They saw my stories and that I was there. They're like, you're at street fair? I'm here too. And they're not vegan at all, and they went. So that's like,
really
right?
cool.
That's
Such
so
a large
amazing.
number
cool.
of non-vegans.
Yeah.
Totally. And it's surrounded by buildings, apartment complex. We lived in one of them. That's kind of how it started in North Hollywood.
That's cool.
Because we had gone to the farmer's market all the time or to the gym. We just, that's a walkable city. I did it purposefully there because I realized people would wake up, see something that maybe they wanted to do on a Sunday, and step outside their door.
Yeah.
And I would probably guesstimate that 70% of the people at Vegan Street Fair are not vegan.
Wow.
And that's the goal, because I'm not
That's
trying to make us
amazing.
more vegan. Like, we're vegan.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to make non-vegans be like, wow, this tastes so good. I could do this.
When is the event? So in case like people who don't want to live in LA want to like plan a trip
Yeah.
so that they can go to it.
People do that. I have a friend who comes out from Australia every year.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not exaggerating.
I would totally plan a trip to go to an
Yeah,
event like
I
that.
would. It's March 23rd and 24th, 2019, from 11 to 7.
And then now you have Vegan Sunday, which is it in the same location or?
Yeah, it's actually, if anybody's familiar with the very first Vegan Street Fair, it's on that same street where it hailed and rained on my first event, Good Times.
In LA.
Yeah, in LA.
Very strange.
The universe was testing you.
It was.
They're like, you want this?
It was.
You have to work for
I'm
it.
such a dork. I thought it was like royalty, like where it hailed and rained. Like,
like a king's reign.
That's why, like, if you watch it back, Nicole's face was like, wow. Yeah. And then everyone was talking about the weather, and I was like, oh, shit.
Nicole is like, she's like,
So it's happening there, where there was physical hail and physical rain.
Precipitation, yep, got it. On the same
Rain,
page.
wet people and vendors.
precipitation.
Precipitation noted, yep.
What
Yeah.
was your kind of inspiration for making it the way you make it, and like the layout, where it's located, and just kind of everything?
There's so much. I mean, I feel like we try to remove barriers, as many barriers as possible, because we go to events all the time where there's a cover, we do have an event like that as well. It's called Vegan Street Fair Nights. Yeah, and that costs money to get in. But the big one, and there's a reason for that, and I'll talk about that later, but our goal is like people stepping off the subway to see something on a street that wasn't there the day before. If they have $4 in their pocket, they can eat. And they can eat something good and good for you and good for the planet and good for the animals, but also accessible for people who are in wheelchairs and people who, just have issues typically going to vegan events that are on grass or what have you. So we tried to sort of make it accessible from many angles. It's in the middle of a city, so there's tons of people of color, there's tons of people of all religions, there's all different types of bodies. I think that's the other thing. A lot of times vegan events are like, it's, this magical thing and you become super skinny when you go vegan, and like, that's not what veganism is, though.
I hate that. That's my biggest pet peeve. Like, I talk about, they've heard me talk their ears off about it, but like one of my first videos was like, talking about how everyone's just like, oh, you're gonna eat fruit and all this weight's gonna fall off and your hair's gonna grow and you're gonna just glow and look amazing. And it's like, it's not a diet, it's a social justice movement for living beings that have been marginalized and taken advantage of. And people just don't get that.
No, they don't. And health, there's a word for this. It's like I don't even know the word. It's like when people are concerned about your health, but they're not really, they're just shaming you.
Right. Yeah.
And
Being
it's
a jerk.
like, they're just
like,
being
what is
total
that?
assholes.
Yeah.
It's like, you're vegan? That's vegan? Ugh, oil, salt, sugar, And it's like, all those things are vegan though.
Yeah.
So it's fine if you want to be whole foods plant-based, like do that.
Yeah.
But don't shame other people for what they look like. Like there's, like when you see PETA ads and stuff, and it breaks my heart because PETA has such a big
Following
and such a
they
big
have
voice.
so much power, and I feel like
sometimes they get it wrong. A lot of times they get it wrong. And this is off. I need this back on.
It's hot in the studio.
But they'll have ads that are like, save the whales. And it's a picture of a woman
naked woman.
on a beach. And how horrifying is that to see as someone who's just exploring veganism, compassionate living, to be like, oh, I'm not welcome. I'm not, because I don't belong, because I don't fit what
It's this,
the bodies should look like.
Such a beautiful picture that they make of like a woman, and it's like, who is this super vegan? Like, I don't see myself as that. And it's like the billboard for veganism has become so unattainable.
I even had that idea in my head when I first went vegan. I was like, oh my gosh, my skin's gonna be perfect. I'm gonna lose all this weight. And then none of those things happened. I was still the same person I was before. I just stopped. I started eating more compassionately, and I loved that side of it. But I was like, why do we have this idea that veganism is gonna like make you look a certain way?
Yeah, I just think it all gets conflated. It's like you said, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. Any body can be a compassionate body. Any body type, any ability, any color, any religion, like everyone can be compassionate. You don't have to look a certain way, but I think a lot of times mainstream vegan organizations are putting up on their billboards and in their Instagram feeds and everywhere that they can, put a person, even hands, like it's even that.
Oh my God.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I
It's
do.
like a hand holding a burger and the whole feed is like white hands. And it's,
wow, I never thought of that.
right. And so for people who are people of color, they can't see themselves in these things. They can't see their body type. They can't see their skin color because we're telling people what they should be as vegans. And that's what I think we try to do with this platform is like tell people of all different backgrounds, you can look however you want, you can be whoever you want, and you're welcome here.
Yeah.
You can even not necessarily be vegan right now.
Yeah.
Just come and enjoy some really good food, and maybe we planted a seed and you'll walk away and 2 months from now you'll decide to go vegan. And that's how it should be. I think it should be sort of just welcoming. Just, God, this movement should just be more welcoming, like,
Oh my gosh,
in every way.
What I love about vegan street fair is that when you go and you see the different kinds of food, you guys don't just have like the same food that everyone else has too, is something I've noticed. There's soul food, there's Indian food, there's Cajun food. There's just so many different kinds of food there. And I know for me personally, I talk about this a lot on my Instagram. It's really hard because I'm Indian. I grew up like half Indian. I grew up eating very differently. And then when you become vegan, the representation of your culture and culture through food is not there. And then it's like, you know, when you go vegan, you're like, how do I make my favorite pasta? How do I make my favorite whatever? But then you like lose some of yourself because there's not that being pushed. There's not like equal opportunity for all cultures, all abilities, and like going to an event like Vegan Street Fair where it's accessible to people in wheelchairs. I've seen you guys put up allergy notes on your boards.
Yes.
And I like, for me as someone who's experienced this, I see that and I deeply appreciate it.
Thank you.
So I'm like, yes,
Thank you for
child,
saying
let's
that.
do it.
Yes.
I love how you try to also make it available to people of all different socioeconomic backgrounds. I feel like a lot of people say that veganism is so expensive and like they can only, you know, like if I had more money, then I could buy the vegan products and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something to consider, you know, because I feel like I'm privileged in that I can go to, we were just talking about the Italian restaurant in West Hollywood that just opened, Pura Vida, and I can go there and eat there and, you know, maybe spend a little bit of money because I'm privileged in that way. But there are so many people, especially in North Hollywood, who don't have that same access. And so that's kind of why we introduced the $4 option, because it does two things. One, it gives people who have a little bit less in their pocket an opportunity to buy something that's vegan, and not just like a small taste of something, like a real, like a slider.
It's a meal.
Or a tug. It's a meal. Like you can actually eat that and keep going about your day. And it also allows people to try as much as possible. You know, when we have we do have an event that's like a ticketed event, but when there's events that are ticketed, you're spending your first $20+ on just the entrance, when that money could be going to the food instead. And so there's just this constant sort of, for us anyway, for Vegan Street Fair, we're constantly looking for ways to sort of make it so that people from all backgrounds are able to enjoy this thing, because it's true. Not everybody has access to Whole Foods. Some people live in the middle of nowhere and there's not even a Taco Bell, and Taco Bell is super vegan friendly. Del Taco now, by the way, just did some really cool stuff. How cool is that?
So cool.
So like it's happening, but it's also, you know, it's not as cheap as it would be to go to McDonald's and do the drive-through and get $1 chicken sandwich. And I did that in college. Oh my gosh, I did that in college.
Yeah.
Like when I had $1 in my pocket. I mean, we were scraping, this is not an exaggeration. My roommate and I were scraping the couch for pennies because we had spent our money. We got a ticket anyway. And we had to pay for the chicken. And so we were like, we're going to live off of like these McChicken sandwiches. And that, you know, like that's a funny story, but actually that's a lot of people's reality.
That's totally.
Most people.
Most people. I grew up in the Bronx. Like that's real life.
On social media, we're seeing such a small percentage of what America is really like.
Oh, totally.
And in veganism too. Like, and I think, you know, if we're able to sort of make any kind of changes in how veganism is viewed, then I think it should be that. It should be, you know, how do we reach as many people as humanly possible from all different backgrounds? Because I don't know, if it were me and people were telling me that I had to go vegan, but it's, you know, I have to go to Whole Foods to
But
do
you have
it.
to change everything who you are.
I'm not going to be able to do that. And I'm just going to feel forgotten. I'm just going to feel like you don't get me. That's not a possibility for me.
I feel like one of
Yeah.
the most basic human needs, besides like food, water, shelter, is to feel like they belong.
Yes.
Like, have you seen that challenge that people like pretend the person's invisible and they like take a picture with her and they're like freaking out? They like cry. The person who thinks they're invisible. And every time I'm like, this is what so many people feel like in reality, because they're not being represented. It's like, it's such a human need to feel like you as who you are and just everything that goes with it is okay, even if it's different from me. You know?
Totally.
And that's so important with accessibility in the vegan community.
Yeah.
I love that you're taking that idea and putting that into an actual event that people can go to. But what would you say to people who are watching, who are really passionate vegans and, you know, understand that we are such a small percentage of the population and want to make it a more inclusive and welcoming lifestyle to the people around them that are curious, like what would you say are things that people can do to make it seem more welcoming?
And I think that the best thing that you can do is just consider people that are not yourself. I have friends who are in wheelchairs. I have friends who come from nothing. I have friends who are on welfare. And maybe if you don't have those kinds of friends, that's fine, but maybe just doing a little bit of research on how they live. And I think a lot of the times, it's not just in the vegan world, it's just in general, people think that they have all the answers to life for marginalized communities, and they don't, right? It's like
so important to ask questions and
Yes.
just be like, what do you need?
what do you need?
What can we give you? Like,
Yes, and I don't have the answer. And that's what it feels like a lot of times in veganism. It's like, you're just not trying hard enough to go vegan. Well, no, that's not actually how it works. Time is a resource. And if I'm a single mother living in the projects, with my family, I don't have a lot of money or time to be making my own beans and sprouting stuff to make almond milk. Like, that's not a reality for a lot of people. They're working from 6 a.m. to 6 or 7 p.m., picking up their children from childcare or wherever, and they have to make something quick. People are so disconnected. You don't understand what it's like actually to be systemically oppressed at every turn, where the government is not taking care of you, the people around you are not taking care of you, and then the people who don't live anywhere near you think that they have the answers for you.
and I think another thing is, if you are feeling marginalized, and this is easier said than done, personally, I know that, it's okay to speak up.
Yeah.
You're not the only one going through it. There's so many people who are feeling the same way as you, and you're opening up doors for them by speaking out yourself. If you're not seeing yourself represented in the vegan community or in any community that you want to be a part of, you can be that person.
Yeah, it's such a small community too, and it's such a relatively new thing in terms of it being mainstream. I think it's just a matter of time before there's people who feel comfortable enough to be like, I don't see myself represented here, but I'm gonna be that person for other people. And I think there's so many people that are doing that, and doing such a good job. But it's very interesting to acknowledge that bravery. I feel like that doesn't get acknowledged a lot.
We say that a lot in a lot of our videos. Like, the best vegan you can be is like your authentic self.
Yeah.
Because there's no one just like you. So by being your authentic self and not trying to be someone else, you're gonna be opening the door to someone who can relate to you in a different way that someone else can't.
And people do speak up too. Like, there is I've seen it a lot in the vegan world where marginalized people do speak up and they do say, hey, such and such mainstream vegan organization, what you did was really shitty and it really hurt our community, and people attack them. If you are able to speak up, you should. I always use that term,
And
like,
there's
if
some
you're
people who
able,
can't.
right? And there's some
Yeah, of
people who
course.
can't.
Yeah.
And so it's like, speak up if you can. I'm lucky in the sense that I can and I do, and I'm not afraid of it. But some people cannot. There was just this monstrous vegan account. It has 177,000 followers, and there was this transphobic
I know
thing.
exactly
You know what I'm talking about, right? So it's this account, and they posted something super transphobic, and a lot of people saw this, and so they reposted this transphobic thing, and he got really upset and started sort of attacking all of us. So he attacked me, he put Vegan Street Fair up, and then his followers, he's got a lot of them, started sending me death threats. I mean, and it was nasty. I mean, it was the nastiest thing I could ever make. I'm talking about a message every second. He called the dogs on me. And trans people were coming onto the posts being like, this is so transphobic and gross.
I
Stop.
can't be myself. It makes it scary for other people who are not in a place of privilege to speak up. We're all very privileged to have social media accounts and to be able to speak and be safe.
Yeah.
If you have made a mistake, it is okay.
Yeah.
We're human. I have never lived every single person's life, and I can't understand what they're going through or how they're being marginalized. It's okay to be like, hey, that was fucked up.
Yeah.
I messed up. What can I do to fix it?
To the point of speaking up and speaking out and sort of being allies. We're allies. We're allies to animals, right? We're allies to animals. So our job is to constantly usher in as much education and activism as we can without sort of muddying the waters. I think that's really important. And so in that instance, for me, I was the ally, right? I'm cis, I'm not trans. And so it's my job, I think, to stand up for trans community, because there are so many trans vegans out there, and there's so many trans people out there that need us to support them. My friend who has a trans child reached out to me and thanked me for speaking up, because she cannot out of fear. Because if she speaks up for her child, it puts her child at risk and it puts her family at risk, because there are so many horrible people. So I think that's the point. It's like, oh my God, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You know, I've been dealing with that. Same.
It's just hard because, like, no one's talking about it. I know I'm, like, the person of color on this panel, and so I feel a very great responsibility for marginalized people. I wish people would just accept that it's okay to mess up, and, like, if you're in a place of privilege, you can listen and learn. It's not an attack. It's like, hey, that's not right. Let's try to fix it.
Do you want me to, like, explain the situation? I won't, because, well...
Sure.
Okay. She's received a little bit of hate because people don't like the fact that she talks so much about being, you know, half Indian and being a person of color, and they feel like she's belittling. Now it's making me mad. They feel like she's making them feel less about themselves because they're not a person of color, and that she makes them feel less beautiful, or that they're not good enough. And it's a lot like you were saying, that there was a Black Veg Fest in New York and people got upset about it.
It's so fascinating, because I feel you so much, and I know what that feels like to be told that you are creating division. Learning about racism is a privilege. The privilege of learning about racism is that you don't have to experience it. And that is okay. We all have a privilege. Yep. All of us do, whether we're able-bodied, whether we are wealthy, whether we are born into it or not, whether we are white, whether we are cis and not trans. We all have a privilege in some way, shape, or form. So it's not something to be
Guilty.
You shouldn't feel bad about it. My husband's white. My children look white. They're half Puerto Rican. Like, they don't look like me at all. They're blonde and blue-eyed with light skin. They don't look like me at all. I'm not going to teach my children that there's anything wrong with their skin. I'm going to teach them how to use their skin to help other people come to the table.
Well, I was thinking that whole time, I was like, I kind of realizing, like, I do kind of feel bad because I'm half Mexican, but I never looked Mexican, so I never had to deal.
Yeah, that's the thing with being mixed.
Yeah.
Like, I'm half, and my brother's, like, much lighter skinned, and I'm much darker. Like, it's not something you can calculate down and be like, oh, should I feel guilty for this? I think the best thing to combat guilt is gratitude. Like, being grateful for things. You should feel so grateful that you have that culture and you look that way and you can speak about it. Like, that is so amazing. And that's what's wonderful about you. Everyone starts crying.
Tears.
For people watching this, like, who are feeling really jazzed about everything we're talking about and kind of impassioned, want to learn more and just be more inclusive in their veganism, or even if you're not vegan, being more inclusive is very great. What can they do? I'm
not an expert in any way. I'm consistently learning. I mean, there's a term that we use, it's called consistent anti-oppression. And it actually kind of ties into what we just said, which is, you know, if you're consistently anti-oppression, then you are vegan. If you're consistently anti-oppression, then you're pro-Black. If you are consistently anti-oppression, then you are pro-LGBTQ. You know, it kind of all ties in. And so I think that really the key is just, if you're really interested in this topic, there's so many people talking about this that have done it way better than I could ever do it. Aph Ko is a really good one. Christopher-Sebastian is a really great one. Brenda Sanders. Food Empowerment Project really talks a lot about.
Yeah, they're great.
They talk a lot about, like, workers' rights and sort of tying all those little pieces together to be like, oh,
why
I get
are
it.
we vegan for humans too? They're really good for that.
Yeah, and I think that if you really want to learn, the key is just to find these organizations and shut your mouth and listen. Please teach me what I need to learn, because I don't know anything about this and I'm feeling really uncomfortable. And discomfort is good, because that means you're growing. Yes. Just if you're sitting there like, ooh, I don't like that, then maybe there's something there for you to sort of explore. Just listen to people who are already doing this work, and those are great. Black Vegans Rock is a really great website, and they have a lot of resources on there too, so I would go there. Also, if you're like planning events or you're meeting up with people, do your best to be as inclusive as you possibly can.
It's fun to learn things.
Yeah, and thank you so much for those resources too, because we will link them down below, so if you guys are interested, check it out.
Grow with us.
Yeah, we're always like looking to expand our minds.
I love you so much.
I don't know why I felt like I had to say something.
And hearts.
Mine.
What was you gonna say?
I was trying to like I was trying to
she was
like,
just expressing.
I was trying to lighten it up into an like
I think
That was good.
That was successful.
Rainbows.
looking to expand our minds.
We'll just end it with jazz hands. Well, thank you so much for coming. I feel like my mind, she said, if you're feeling jazzed, I was like, that's me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to go read everything and watch everything you were talking about. Again, we'll have that down below. So thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. And thank you all for watching.
Yeah,
we
we
love
hopefully
it.
will see a lot of you guys at Street Fair this year.
Yeah, and we have all of our individual channels. We've got Vegan Street Fair, we've got our Instagram, and all of that in the description box below.
And if you're feeling marginalized or you have an idea of how to make veganism more accessible to you, comment below.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Bye, guys. We'll see you Monday.
Bye.